Welcome to Schweitzer Drive, a podcast where we explore what goes on between the generation of electricity and the light switch. Join Dave Whitehead as he interviews the entrepreneurs, innovators, and experts who are inventing the future of electric power.
Hi, I'm Dave Whitehead, the CEO of Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories. Welcome to Schweitzer Drive. The electric power industry is changing, and so are the skills and expertise needed to invent, design, build, operate, and maintain the power system today and into the future. We're hearing a lot about worker shortages and the terms like the Great Resignation. So I thought it would be a good time to sit down with SEL's Chief People Officer, Stacey Doty, and talk about the challenges of hiring, particularly for STEM careers. Stacey began her career at SEL as an intern in our Human Resources Division after graduating with a Bachelor's of Arts in Human Resource Management from the University of Idaho. Over the years, she has served in numerous HR roles, of where she has helped to further define SEL's culture, grow leaders, build effective teams, and advocate for the needs and interests of SEL employees around the world. As Chief People Officer, Stacey continues to help SEL navigate the many opportunities and challenges of being a global employer. Hi, Stacey, and thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, let's jump right into this. Research has shown that up to 30% of the electric power professionals will be ready to retire within the next decade, with 10% who are ready to retire now and another 11% within the next 1 to 5 years. At the same time, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics indicate that by 2026, the shortage of engineers within the U.S. will exceed 1.2 million folks. And to add to this challenge, the electric power industry is competing with a whole bunch of other industries for engineers. How challenging is hiring in general right now?
Well, it's pretty much what you would expect it to be, Dave. Quite a bit has changed in the course of just the last few years with how we use technology in terms of how people work and where they work, where they want to work. And candidates' expectations are changing as well. So as we continue to recruit engineers to SEL, we clearly see with this change in expectation and the evolution of the when and the where, things are becoming more difficult and more challenging in terms of hiring.
So some of the challenges then perhaps are the employees' expectations. Certainly when I graduated from college, the expectation is I would show up at a building, wherever that might be, and work with a handful of other engineers or maybe hundreds of engineers to complete a project, work on a project, build or design something. How are expectations changing now relative to when I was graduating or starting a new job? You mentioned work from home, work for anywhere, new tools and stuff like that. So is that a help for hiring because we have these new things, or a challenge, or what are your thoughts there?
Well, there's certainly pros and cons, but I think today when you're looking for new talent, technical talent, especially for newer generations, you're finding that folks are looking for more than just a job. They're looking for more than just starting their career. They're looking for an experience with employers, and that experience includes a balance between their life that they have outside of work and what they do while they're at work. And so they're looking for an employer who kind of has that understanding and is able to be flexible, acknowledge that people need to find balance in what they're doing. And so, of course, with the technology as it's advanced and allowed people to work from home, specifically within the last 3 years, you see a lot of folks very appreciative of that. As it's become more and more common in the last 2 or 3 years, now it's become more and more common in organizations as well. So most organizations are offering some aspect of flexibility in various ways to new employees.
You know, when the pandemic really started to take off, let's call it the March or April timeframe of 2020, SEL, we have at the time probably 5,000 employees. Let's call it that. We spent 1,500 folks home. You know, with the under the direction that, hey, if you're able to work from home, you can work from home. So that was like a significant 30% of our workforce.
I think at one point we almost had 2,000 employees working from home.
So certainly COVID precipitated this new way to work. We talk about, did it exacerbate the situation, with new ways to work, or is it just a tipping point that was inevitable and COVID really just kind of pushed us in that direction, perhaps sooner than we might have gotten to and without COVID, I guess.
I think there's some truth to that, flexibility was becoming a topic we were talking about prior to COVID being in our vernacular, prior to being something we were experiencing. We were talking about flexibility in the workplace. And I do think that to some degree it sped that conversation up and made it very real to us very, very quickly. It's certainly the pandemic has impacted businesses. Over the last 2 years, as we've been trying to hire candidates, we've had to very quickly adjust, be very creative. Most of our experiences with candidates have been virtual ones or were virtual ones over that period of time, which can be very tricky when you're trying to hire and get to know people that are a great fit for your company. Ultimately, it has created a bit of ease in terms of reaching out to candidates. The timing is sometimes a bit easier. Of course, there are certainly benefits to it. But in terms of your culture, what's important to you, getting to know candidates, ensuring that these folks know who we know who they are, and they're a great fit, it can become very challenging to do it in a virtual environment without being able to get to know them.
I've had the opportunity to talk to a handful of CEOs about, workplace, work from home, work from anywhere, hybrid models, and what have you. Certainly, we saw at the middle of the pandemic, you had folks like Google saying, we're never coming back to the office. And then people reverse. It's like, oh, we're all coming back. And I think we're swinging back and forth between that and getting back to the conversation I've had with other CEOs. I think everybody's probably going to land to some hybrid model or flexibility model. And I think it comes from, there's certainly some advantages that, perhaps somebody living in a big city doesn't have to commute every hour, an hour each way to get back and forth from home and work. But at the same time, you mentioned culture. There's some benefit to being in the office. I'd be concerned about a brand new employee, say somebody right out of college or what have you, sitting in front of a computer screen, and that's their only connection with their employees or the company, right? And I think without that human face-to-face interaction, I think organizations are going to struggle. What are your thoughts there?
Well, we've been very in tune to not only our industry but organizations across the board in terms of how they're managing this return to work that's happened over the past year. And I think it's true, Dave, there's just been this swing one side to the other. We're seeing organizations that have really just allowed folks to say, okay, we're going to do work from home, and then realized very quickly they were losing something within that decision. And so for us, for SEL and an organization where culture is so incredibly important to us, what we do, how we support our customers, and how much we care for our employees, when you have a brand new employee, you need to ensure that that person has that opportunity to work in a team dynamic, that has the opportunity to collaborate and receive hands-on mentorship. And that generally cannot happen fully through a computer screen. You need to have those opportunities. And so companies, I think, are realizing more and more that there has to be a balance in terms of the flexibility we offer. There has to be a key aspect of interaction and collaboration, and that requires people to be together.
We like to remind people that engineering is our middle name. And as I mentioned in the intro, our industry is competing with other industries for engineers. And it sounds like there's a shortage of people getting the degrees we need. What are you seeing in the industry? And particularly, what are you seeing at SEL when we go out and trying to hire folks to help us build the products to make electric power safer, more reliable, and more economical?
So the trend really depends on engineering disciplines. So computer science and computer engineering are growing. And we see that right now with almost all universities. Unfortunately, we're also seeing a decline in electrical engineering programs. And double E majors are a big part of our hiring need at SEL. We have seen universities promote mechanical engineering as a degree that can be applied across a wide range of engineering careers. So enrollment has been trending up there. And then more recently, we're also seeing universities create what they call cybersecurity programs or mechatronics programs, which is a rather cross between the mechanical and the electronics or electrical. And in order to really meet the industry demand, they're trying to be more creative with the types of careers that they offer. So that's pretty new.
So let's pull on that thread just a little bit with hiring and STEM careers. We talked earlier about, this 1.2 million engineering gap looming in coming in 2026. We probably make an argument. We're already seeing some portion of that right now when we go to hire electrical engineers or people that can program FPGAs or what have you. What are some of the opportunities you see there to bolster the candidate pool?
Well, it really starts with getting young people interested in STEM. That's where it all begins. And you look at any organizations of our size or larger, and they're going to have a very strong, what we call K through 12 program, kindergarten through high school, in terms of getting out there to kids at a very young age and talking about STEM, talking about engineering as a career, talking about how it impacts the world and how they might be involved in that. The sooner we can get in front of that, encourage, promote, foster that interest in STEM careers, the better that enrollment is going to be in universities, and the more opportunity organizations are going to have to hire those students once they graduate.
I guess maybe when I think about STEM, I think of somebody with a 4-year degree in electrical engineering. That's probably not the case when you step back and look at all the technical skills we need. There's 2-year degrees, there's technical certifications and stuff like that. So when we talk about STEM, are we being perhaps, or maybe I am, maybe I'm being a bit myopic on what a STEM education is, and are there opportunities perhaps to get the various skills or talent we need that doesn't necessarily require a 4-year degree? Are things shifting in industries then where it's not always a 4-year degree, rather there are other certifications or whatever that we can fill the technical gaps or jobs that we have open with something other than the traditional 4-year college degree?
I think there's tremendous opportunity for exactly that. Ultimately, within the universities, you have the 2 years degree, the trades, the electronics program. For example, we've been partnering with Lewis Clark State College to help them develop a electronics course that really is going to impact their ability to attract high school students into careers that are various in terms of electronics itself. And so that's one way we can help our universities get more folks through that 2-year pipeline. On the other side of that, there's lots of opportunity for us to hire those associate degrees, folks that maybe have certifications, and train them in-house with STEM courses. We have electronic courses that we're offering. We have mathematicians that we've hired that teach our new professionals day-to-day programs where we're bringing in folks and offering apprenticeships so that they can spend time, not necessarily for that job specifically, but have an opportunity to go to a different job that they're interested in, experience that, learn about it, and then decide whether or not they want to go forward. So there's a lot of opportunity on both sides for us to encourage folks to consider 2-year degrees, technical degrees, and then once they get here, also help them learn and grow through our own training.
Internally, we're doing apprenticeship programs now. And coming up with different and clever ways to fill the skills gap that we have in different parts of our organization. So on the one hand, I guess I could cry in my beer saying, hey, the universities aren't graduating enough engineers or STEM degreed folks. On the other hand, we could say, well, okay, that's the reality we're living in. What can we do as a company to either hire folks out of colleges that we'd like to come join us, or hire smart people that perhaps haven't gone to college or community college, whatever, and grow our own? Do you think that's going to be a trend going forward in STEM related businesses where they're just going to have to roll up their sleeves and figure out how to provide the educational opportunities or the training necessary to complete whatever their particular mission is?
I think you just said it, Dave. It has to be a trend. I think organizations are realizing that, demand exceeds supply, and we don't have enough talent out there in terms of finding all of the talent that we need to fill our needs. And there's no organization that is exempt from that. And so essentially, I think what's most important is really thinking about how to grow employees and the right way to grow employees. And so whether or not you choose to do internal training, certifications, apprenticeships. One of the things that we do right now is called Path to Your Future, where folks can decide to go back and if they have interested in either a technical or non-technical degree. We have about 53 employees right now that are specifically in our PATH program seeking a technical degree, and those programs and that approach is becoming more and more common. And I think as we start to work with other organizations and learn from each other, we're going to find that that's probably more successful over time than just relying on our universities and our trade programs to produce the talent we need.
Maybe take a second and describe what SEL's PATH program is for the folks listening to this. Might inspire some other organizations to take a look at what we're trying.
Certainly. So, at SEL, one of the coolest things about working here is just the learning atmosphere and how we promote and encourage learning at SEL. And years ago, Dr. Schweitzer, he made the decision that we were going to help people go back to school even after they started working for us. So an employee that's been here for a period of time and is interested in a particular area, a discipline, can apply for our PATH tuition assistance. And, we have paid for folks to go back and get bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, 2-year associate's degrees, certifications. Very proud of all of that. And it's an opportunity to be able to help them balance going back to school while they still continue their work with SEL and just supporting that need. And we've had so many folks graduate from the program with degrees that have worked here for years.
The number of women in STEM careers has been a hot topic for a while. It's kind of personal for me. I have my youngest daughter's attending ASU, studying electrical engineering, about to graduate. What kind of movements are we seeing with women, particularly in STEM degrees that we're hiring?
So the focus on diversity generally is higher now than, or I should say the focus is much more than I've seen it in years past generally. And then when it comes to female technical talent, certainly there's a greater need than ever. Unfortunately, the industry is seeing a slower increase due to the continued low percentage of female graduates. And back to what we were talking about earlier, Dave, it's incredibly important for us to get out in front of young students, young female students that are contemplating what they're going to do with their career, much like your daughter did, and talk to them about what is an engineering degree, what can it do, what's a STEM degree, what are the opportunities, and help bolster that overall attendance in schools around the nation. It's really important that we get young women interested in these types of careers.
So we've talked about recruiting at STEM colleges. We've talked about internships that we have. We've talked about our apprentice program. We talked about PATH. Are there other ways that we can build a talent pipeline?
Yes. So one of the things that we have really started working on is our partnerships with universities across the nation, frankly, across the whole globe, whether that be in the form of making equipment donations or having endowed professorships, supporting endowed professorships, mentoring senior design teams, classroom presentations, teaching in classrooms, helping develop curriculum. We have lots of folks that sit on advisory committees within universities and help guide where these disciplines go. And it's really important that we're part of that solution. Whatever they're doing, we need to be part of it. We talked about our internal development programs. Whether you're teaching a young engineer or whether you're helping a new leader get comfortable being a leader, I think the internal programs, the apprenticeships, the internships, we have a significant amount of internships, about 270 right now. And ultimately, I think you really have to foster that ability for students to learn while they're going to school. And we've had a tremendous conversion rate with being able to keep those interns once they graduate. We talked about actively engaging K through 12. That I can't stress that enough. Getting into high schools, talking to young students, getting them interested, activities, getting them involved, engaged, connected to whatever you're doing as an employer, as an organization is critical to growing those numbers of technical folks that are coming out of universities. And then, for us, expanding our social media network, building and maintaining relationships with candidates, even if they don't become an employee, staying in contact with them, getting to know people in different organizations. That's very important as well. And all of those aspects help us to continue to grow our organization.
I don't think we're ever going to overcome the employment challenges we have for our STEM activities. We're always going to be looking for engineers and other people that are technical to help us solve these particular problems. I do think I have a newfound appreciation for all of the stuff that you and your team does on the HR side. I kind of think about when when they used to let me build products, right? I would design and engineer a solution for a particular platform. What you and your team are really doing is designing and building systems to create the talent that we need to continue our mission. For that, I'm really thankful. I'm sure lots of folks are going to come away from this podcast thinking about their talent pool and things that they might be able to do. I don't think there's a silver bullet to hiring STEM folks or getting the right technical talent on our teams. Rather, it's going to be getting to kids young and early, providing opportunities or career paths that you have to create within your organization to create the talent you need to fill particular positions. And so we're all going to have to be creative. And thank you, Stacey, for the discussion this morning. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And what a fun challenge to have to be able to, promote STEM education to young folks and be a part of that solution that eventually will help our industry. So very proud to be a part of it.
Well, we'll have you on in a year from now and see how you're doing.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Stacey.
Thank you for stopping by Schweitzer Drive. Join us again as we learn about, explore, and celebrate electric power. For more information about the show, please visit selinc.com/Schweitzer Drive.